You are now watching The Lone Blown. Blown! Yo, what's poppin' YouTube? You're back watching The Lone Blown. Thanks so much for being here today. And today we're going to be going over Vikavolt V. Vikavolt V is one of the coolest cards coming out in Darkness Ablaze. And for those of you who have been playing for a while, you might have some kind of feels about this card because it's very similar to Seismitoad EX. For everyone who's watching this video, let me explain what it does. So Vikavolt V has 210 HP, which is a hefty amount for a basic Pokemon. Not unheard of nowadays, but it does exist. It's a lightning type Pokemon, which means that it can use the remainder of the lightning package. And by remainder, I mean Thunder Mountain Prism Star is gone, Electro Power is gone, but we do have Vikavolt, we do have Tapu Koko Prism Star, and we do have Speed Lightning Energy, and those really help the deck out. Its first attack, Paralyzing Bolt, 50 damage. Your opponent can't play any item cards from their hand during their next turn. So you guessed it, yep, this is going to be an item lock deck. Its second attack, Lightning Colorless Super Zap Cannon, does 190 damage, and you discard 2 energies from this Pokemon. The rest is Fighting Weakness and Retreat cost of 3. Pretty easy going Pokemon here. The goal is to get Paralyzing Bolt in play as quick as possible, and then stop your opponent from playing item cards. Next up here, we do have Amoonguss. Amoonguss is an interesting addition to the deck. I came up with this idea with my testing group, which consists of Kenny Pacula, Mike Gibbs, Alex Garcia, and Josh Sutherland. Bursting Spores allows us, when we play down a Pokemon with Spore, to make our opponent poisoned and asleep, so we can do some extra damage to our Pokemon and we do extra damage to our opponent's Pokemon, and we kind of put them in a full lock. I think that's incredibly strong because they can't use items, they're asleep, they possibly won't be able to attack, and we have a decent bit of HP, so we could usually withstand a hit or two if anything were to go wrong with the sleep flip. We do play more Foongus so that we can get it out earlier than our opponents, and so that we have enough so that we're using Spore effectively. We have a copy of Eldegoss, Crobat, and Dedenne. So the Eldegoss is for us to get back our supporter cards. I'll just put that over there so you can see it so it's not cut off. It gets us back our supporter cards if necessary. I just like having the option to search for that card nowadays. We have Crobat. Crobat's going to allow us to draw cards if we don't want to discard cards in our hands. Dedenne-GX will just allow us to have that straight fire draw. We have Tapu Koko Prism Star, which will allow us to power up our Vikavolt very quickly. And we're going to have Marshadow, which can take care of our opponent's stadium, which we'll go over in a second. We have 4 copies here of Professor's Research. Which is going to allow us just to quickly draw cards, discard cards for Tapu Koko Prism Star, Lightning Energy specifically. Marnie, I mean, what's going to go better with item lock and your opponent's poison asleep than ruining their hand in entirety? I think Marnie is just a really good idea to have in a deck like this. We got Guzma Hala. Guzma Hala will allow us to search out a lot of the key portions of this combo. So we can grab a Speed Lightning Energy, we can grab a Tool card, and we can grab a Stadium card as well. Boss Orders is going to allow us to bring up whichever Pokemon we like and hopefully prey on the fact that they won't be able to get a Switch out because they can't play Switch, and we might just be able to stick it to that Pokemon, whether it's worth 2 prize cards, 3 prize cards, or even a 1 prize card Pokemon that we can knock out in between turns with poison. We do have 3 copies of Slumbering Forest here. So the Slumbering Forest will allow us to make our opponents double asleep. So the fact that they're double asleep means that they're likely not going to attack because they have a 50-50 chance of waking up off the first flip, and then the second flip is going to bring that to a 25% chance. So basic math is we have 75% chance on a current flip of keeping our opponent asleep while they're under item lock, and that's if they're even able to attack. We also have a copy of Toughness Cape. Toughness Cape is one of the new cards from Darkness Ablaze. So you can give your Pokemon, excluding Pokemon GX, you can give them extra HP. And it has to be basic. So basically, you can put it on Foongus, Tapu, Koko, Marshadow, Crobat, everything except the Dedenne. Let's put it like that. But we're mainly putting it on Vikavolt V to give Vikavolt V 260 HP to withstand even more attacks. We have a copy of Air Balloon because it's searchable from Guzma Hala. I think it's a cool thing because a lot of these Pokemon have 2 retreats, and it allows us to have some mobility in the deck and a searchable switch. We do have Vitality Band, so we can control our opponent's damage in between turns with the Vikavolt V. So I think that one's a pretty cool inclusion into the deck because we could do 60 plus 10 every turn. So it adds up, especially as our opponent's not attacking and they're just going past, or boss ordering up another Pokemon. We do have Quick Balls here. Quick Balls are a pretty simple addition to this deck because we're just searching out basic Pokemon. It's almost, Quick Balls hit almost harder because we do play a very light amount of basic Pokemon. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 Pokemon overall total. So we could search out a lot of them with the Quick Ball. We got 4 copies of Poké Ball here, and before y'all think that this is a meme, I think Poké Ball is going to see a lot more play in our upcoming formats. The biggest reason why I think it's going to see play in our upcoming formats is because decks like this don't play a lot of Pokemon. You wouldn't want to play Pokemon Communication in a deck like this at all because you would never hit it. You only have 14 Pokemon. You don't have any way to naturally search our Pokemon. I have thought about adding a turf field to fix that and add in Pokemon Communications, so you could always turf field for an Amoonguss, but that hasn't necessarily worked in my testing. Pokeball allows us, yes, with a flip, it can search out anything, but it does include the evolution Pokemon that we have. If it was just basic Pokemon, I'd try to find something else, maybe capture energy of some sort, but as of right now, there's not really much else that we're looking for here. We do have 4 copies of Turbo Patch. Turbo Patch will allow us to try to power up this Vikavolt as quickly as possible. We want to be hitting with the item lock as soon as possible because we don't want our opponents to do anything in a game. It's a pretty hard hitting strategy of if our opponent does nothing, we're happy people. Do I think this is a bit of a degenerate strategy? That's to each their own. I think that item lock's viable in the Pokemon TCG, and this is a really good way to break it, especially with the double sleep and poisons. We do have 4 copies of Super Scoop Up Net. Jeez, my my old roots are showing. Scoop Up Net's for us to abuse the Foongus over and over again, so we can get our opponent's Pokemon double poison or double asleep and poisoned up to 6 times total, which is usually enough for us to win games, especially considering we're hitting for a hefty amount with the Vikavolts. If you've watched this channel before, we do have a Dustox video that's going to be on the channel, so I would 100% check that out. This deck is very similar. That one shows a PTCGO playthrough, so you can see the difference between Cragonal hitting 10 damage a turn and Dustox doing triple poison and a sleep, or triple poison and paralysis, compared to 50 damage a turn with Foongus doing extra damage. So overall, this gets there a little bit quicker. That's why we could get away with 4 Scoop Up Net. I mean, that's all we really have in the format. We also have 2 copies of Switch, usually lower than what I thought I'd have in a deck like this, but we do have a copy of Air Balloon that is searchable, and we do have 4 copies of Scoop Up Net, and these Pokemon are going to be on the bench. If they're in the active, sure, we could use a Switch, or we could manually retreat them. Vikavolt's going to be the one that's in the active spot, so that's where it's at. We do have 4 copies here of Speed Lightning Energy. So the Speed Lightning Energy is just to bring the consistency aspect of this deck up so that we could just draw extra cards kind of put our opponent in a worse position, allowing us to get Amoonguss out there. And then we have 6 copies of Lightning Energies. I think that's just an appropriate amount of energies for a deck like this. We do want to have energies in our discard pile with Quick Ball or Professor's Research or Guzma Hala so that we can get the Tapu Koko very early. Do I think this deck list is perfect? By any means, no. I think it's a really interesting take on Vikavolt going into this upcoming format. And I haven't seen too many other Vikavolt lists at the time of the creation of this video, because a lot of people have given up on the concept because Electro Power, Volkner, Thunder Mountain, Prism Star are all getting rotated. I think cards that I'd like to add into this deck might be Turffield Stadium. That might actually relieve us of Pokeball. I could see Capture Energy going into this deck because this does take Lightning colorless, not Lightning. I've always wanted an extra Amoonguss, and at times I've had 4 Foongus in this deck. Having an extra Slumbering Forest seems ideal, but again, not entirely sure of that. And I'm always a fan of playing more of cards, so there's a chance that I'd like to add an additional Switch or an additional just like cards to like load them up. I think that makes decks a little bit more consistent. I'm a little OCD. It also looks a little bit prettier when you're laying out the deck list. So I would give this deck a whirl. It struggles a little bit against VMAX decks because they can get out of the double poison or the poison and double asleep. I need to realize what these cards actually do. And that's really where the deck can struggle with. Most other decks, as long as they can't get rid of their status conditions, I mean, they can't play item cards, so their options are very few and far between. I don't think too many decks are going to be running Bird Keeper, and Mallow and Lana is almost pointless because decks are two-shotting anyways. So I think this deck is an interesting metagame position for sure, and it can really compete with some of the best decks in the format. So give it a try. Let me know how you feel in the comments below. And we'd love to see you on the channel again in the future, so stay tuned. Really hope that you enjoyed watching that video. I totally enjoyed making it. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like the video, share the video with everyone that you know, and subscribe to the channel as well. Totally appreciate all the support. We got a lot of cool things happening on the channel, so stay tuned for more. Be sure to check out the social links in the description. Thanks and have yourself a great one.